इंग्लिश क्लासेस में आप सबका तहे दिल से स्वागत करता हूँ। आज मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री का एक बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट चैप्टर है अराइवल ऑफ यूरोपियंस और इससे अक्सर क्वेश्चंस हमारे एग्ज़ाम्स में हमारे कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्ज़ाम्स में आते हैं। तो कुछ 50-55 क्वेश्चंस हैं, इसको हम डिस्कस कर लेंगे और अगर आप कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्ज़ाम्स में इंटरेस्टेड हैं तो आप इनको याद कर लेंगे। ओके, तो ज़्यादा देर नहीं करते हैं और स्टार्ट करते हैं। तो द पहला क्वेश्चन इज हु वाज द फर्स्ट पुर्तगीज वायसरॉय इन इंडिया? इट्स अल्मीडा। Who was the first Portuguese viceroy in India? It's Almeida. Who welcomed Vasco da Gama at Calicut in India? Zamorin. Who welcomed Vasco da Gama at Calicut in India? Zamorin. When did Vasco da Gama come to India? 1498. When did Vasco da Gama come to India? 1498. Who was the real founder of Portuguese power in India? Albuquerque. Who was the real founder of Portuguese power in India? Albuquerque. Where did the Portuguese build the first fortress in India? Cochin. Where did the Portuguese build the first fortress in India? Cochin. Who were the first Europeans to come to India for trade? Portuguese. Who were the first Europeans to come to India for trade? Portuguese. Who were the first Europeans to set up sea trade centers in India? The Portuguese. Who were the first Europeans to set up sea trade centers in India? The Portuguese. Where did Portuguese establish the factory in Bengal? Hooghly. Where did Portuguese establish the factory in Bengal? Hooghly. Hooghly was used as a base for piracy in Bay of Bengal by Portuguese. Who is connected with Blue Water Policy? De Almeida. Who is connected with Blue Water Policy? De Almeida. Was the founder of Calcutta? Job Chernock. Who was the founder of Calcutta? Job Chernock. Who was the last to come to pre-independence India as traders? French. When did Portuguese capture Goa? 1510. Where did the English open first factory in South India? Masulipatanam. In which year the English opened their first factory in Odisha? 1633. In which year did the French occupy Madras under the leadership of Dupleix? 1746. The first to start a joint stock company to trade with India were the Dutch. Name the centers established by the Dutch for trading in India: Nagapattinam, Chinsura, Machhalipatnam, Surat, Bharuch and Agra. Which European company get the first charter permitting them to trade in India? The East India Company. During the time of which Mughal emperor did the English East India Company establish its first factory in India? Jahangir. Where in India did Britishers set up their first factory in 1612? Surat. During British rule, which region of India was famous for the production of opium? Bihar. Which British official did defeat Portuguese at Soli? Thomas Best? Which European company was the first to establish its factory at Surat? The English. In the year 1613, where was the English East India Company given permission to set up a factory? Surat. Bombay was taken over by the English East India Company from the Portuguese. Which English governor of East India Company was expelled by Aurangzeb? Sir John Child. What was the immediate cause of First Carnatic War? Capture of French ships by the British. Carnatic War was fought between English and French. Who was the first European to initiate the policy of taking part in the quarrels of Indian princes with a view to acquire territories? Dupleix. In India, among the following locations, the French established their earliest factory at Surat. French East India Company was constituted during the reign of Louis XIV, who is the founder of French Company in India, Colbert. Vasco da Gama was voyager from Portugal. Christopher Columbus was voyager from Spain. Christopher Columbus was voyager from Spain. Captain Cook was voyager from Great Britain. Tasman was voyager from Holland. The first European power to occupy Pondicherry were the Portuguese. The First Carnatic War was ended by the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle. Third Carnatic War was ended by the Treaty of Paris. Second Carnatic War was inconclusive. First Mysore War was lost by British. Which Portuguese governor in India introduced the policy of imperialism? Alfonso de Albuquerque. The Portuguese settlements of Goa, Diu and Daman were occupied by India in 1961. During his tenure, Indian forces took control of Goa, Diu and Daman from the Portuguese on December 19, 1961. Manuel Antonio Vassallo Silva. The East India Company was established on 31st December 1600 as per the Royal Charter of issued by Queen Elizabeth I. Which British merchant adventurer arrived in India before the establishment of British East India Company in 1599? John Mildenhall. Which Britisher arrived in 1609 at Jahangir's court to open a factory at Surat? Captain William Hawkins. Which British ambassador of James I arrived at Jahangir's court in 1615 to obtain permission for trade and establish factories? Sir Thomas Roe. Who was the first Dutchman to reach India? Cornelis de Houtman. Where did the Dutch establish the first factory in India? In 1605, Masulipatam, Andhra Pradesh. Arrival of Europeans पे almost जितने भी possible questions और ये questions पीछे के सारे competitive exams में पूछे गए हैं, तो अगर आप इनको 2-3 बार सुन लेंगे और इनको याद कर लेंगे तो उम्मीद है कि अराइवल ऑफ यूरोपियन चैप्टर्स में से एक भी क्वेश्चन आपका कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम में नहीं छूटेगा। हमारे वीडियोस को लाइक करें, कमेंट करें और चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें अगर आपने हमारे चैनल को अभी तक सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया है। थैंक यू, बाय बाय, टेक केयर।